What's up, you guys? I am here today with another edition of Story Time, talking to you about my 2016 trip to Peru to do plant medicine, ayahuasca, and huachuma, aka San Pedro, grandfather medicine. So, if you saw my 2016 US road trip video, then you'll know that the intuitive psychic reading I got from Kit Wilkins back in LA in mid 2016 was sort of the catalyst for me to really come back to Chicago and start diving into this other world, right? This world outside of law that had sort of consumed me for the last decade. And I just felt like it was a time of self-exploration and expansion. I was just hungry for this information and for this knowledge, right? So as I'm studying and I'm reading and I'm immersing myself and also doing a lot of work, sort of figuring out my own blockages and self-sabotage. I'm working through that simultaneously at the time. I got introduced to plant medicine and sort of altered states of consciousness and healing through those methodologies, right? And those different modalities. And so it led me to researching Peru, the authenticity of it, the history of it, meaning the shamans, who down there who do it have been taught from their fathers and their grandfathers, just passed down tradition, right? There's a lot of people at the time who were sort of exploiting plant medicine in the States and other places who didn't have the formal training or the respect for it. That's something I just never wanted to experience, right? So I'm investigating, I'm looking into this stuff, and I figure out a place that I think I want to go do retreat with, right? And they have a formal application process where you have to fill out this questionnaire and talk about your health history and all this stuff. And back when I was, I think like 11 or 12, I got diagnosed with a very minor heart murmur. Never caused me any problems. I've, played sports and done all sorts of crazy shit. And I never gave it another thought, right? But I listed that. I wanted to be truthful. And I listed that on the application, and they denied me. They said, you can't come. And I'm like, to hell with that. Like, I know I'm supposed to go down here and do this plant medicine. I just feel called to it, right? It's literally like calling me. And so I ended up finding this place called Hotel La Gringa. And it was someplace that was ran by a family called the Myburghs from South Africa, who had moved to Peru years and years ago. And what they offered was, on Wednesday, they had like an open San Pedro night, an open huachuma night. And that's a mescaline-based, cactus-based plant medicine. And so I was like, at a minimum, I'm going to go down here, I'm going to hook up with them, and I'm going to do this Wednesday stuff, and I will find an ayahuasca experience that's going to be good for me. But I'm going to get down there and at least give myself the opportunity, right? Had nothing booked, but I was like, I'm going down there. So I ended up booking at their hotel, their hostel, which is in downtown Cusco. And I flew down there. I think I had to fly to Miami, fly to Lima, and then fly another flight from Lima to Cusco. I mean, it took like literally the whole damn day. And I arrived in Cusco at like 4:35 in the morning. So the hostel wasn't even open for me to get in at that point. So I just kind of sat in the square that morning and just sort of absorbed Cusco, right? I mean, Cusco's in the mountains, elevation like 10,000 feet. So it's brisk that morning. I got my bags and I'm just sitting on this bench in the middle of the city in the square, and I'm seeing people literally running past. And I'm like, what the? So it's like a thing in Cusco for people, children, adults, to run. They literally like run to work or run to school or run. It was just so fascinating to see these people running. I didn't understand why they were running, but I was just absorbing it and watching it, right? And so finally I go check in, and, I'm talking to people, finally meet Lesley, and serendipitously, man, I find out after going down to breakfast the first day that there's this whole group that is in for a plant medicine journey with one of the foremost plant medicine people in the world, Ross Heaven. So there are people from Sweden, from England, from all over the US, from everywhere, who came in for this 10-day retreat that I just so happened to overlap with, right? So they have like 3 or 4 days of San Pedro medicine planned. They've got 2 ayahuasca trips planned. They have a mushroom trip planned, experience planned. Also, all these activities where they're going and like seeing around the area. So just being me, talking and being nice to people, I end up chatting some people up at breakfast that morning who are also, and there was literally only one room was left in the hostel that I got because they had all the other rooms taken up, right? So I ended up befriending this woman, Karen, at the table, who's from Sweden, and she knew Ross from before. So she ended up convincing Ross to let me come and have some of the experiences with them in the plant medicine, etc. Right? How incredible is that, right? So I'm kicking it with this group and sort of paying along for each experience I do that wasn't, that's a part of their experience that they paid for the whole package for, but I'm just sort of doing on a la carte basis, right? Because I didn't do everything they did, but I did 2 ayahuasca and I think I did 2 San Pedro. And I think we did San Pedro first. And that is a thick cactus-based, not good tasting brew. And you have to drink a tall glass, man, like 10 ounces of that stuff. And it's hard getting it down, man. It is hard getting it down, but that's like a heart-focused medicine. San Pedro is. They call it grandfather medicine. And it sort of gets you in tune with your heart space. It allows you to sort of open up and feel into things that you may have been suppressing or repressing, and to sort of get honest about what you might need to do for yourself and how you need to move forward, maybe emotionally, maybe energetically. And so we take this medicine and we sit out in the garden. So the ceremony's up at the Temple of the Moon facility that the Myburghs have. So that's 20-minute ride up north into a little bit higher into the mountains above the city, by a couple of sacred sites. And so they have a beautiful facility up there, rooms you can sleep in, bathrooms, kitchen, another house where they stay at, and beautiful garden, and outside their door is some of the most magical land up there. And they really do put on great experience. I end up later on, you'll hear that I ended up going on retreat with them in South Africa as well. Ended up actually coming back down to Peru another time in 2018, but that's another story. So we're taking the plant medicine, the huachuma, and I had some really, really clarifying thoughts, feelings, emotions. Like I had a force field or things around my heart that I need to clear off because I wasn't opening myself up to people, which made a lot of sense. And so I worked on that while I was down there. And then we did ayahuasca. And the first ayahuasca night, now we're taking the ayahuasca inside what's called a maloca, which is like a ceremonial hut, circular all around, built up to the top like that, decorated beautifully inside. And so we're all sitting, on our different mats around, and they had shaman come in to perform this ceremony for us. So they brew the ayahuasca. Now ayahuasca is not mescaline based, it's DMT based, and it's the product of a specific vine and a specific plant in the Amazon jungle that they combine. They brew it over a period of time, that when they do this, it creates the ayahuasca brew, but it also creates a DMT experience that you're able to ingest and actually process in the stomach and then have a physical effect with. Now, normally DMT is not something you can ingest and process in your stomach. You usually have to either inject it or smoke it to get the experience. But thousands of years ago, some shaman came up with this plant and this vine, and combining them creates this opportunity for you to have this ayahuasca DMT experience. And so it's known to produce altered states of consciousness. Some people experience out-of-body experiences. Some people have conversations with different entities or ancestors. Some people have visions of things, dreams. Some people have physical healing. Some people just purge a lot of stuff. They vomit things that need to be cleared out of their system. So the experience is really tailored to you. It's what you need at the time. So the first day, we're in there for ayahuasca, and it's at nighttime actually. And I take the medicine. It's like a shot about that big, thick, doesn't taste great. And and the shaman are chanting, playing the drums. It's like a rhythmic thing. They're holding space on a spiritual level because, and that's why it's so important to go and to do plant medicine with people that have experience, that know what they're doing. They're not just in it for the money, like they're in it for the healing aspects, because a lot of people don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know why certain aspects of the ceremony are done the way they're done, but there are specific reasons they're done that way, right? To create a certain vibration, to hold a certain vibration, right? To protect and to provide protection for the people in there. You're laying down, some people are going to sleep, they're passing out, they're vomiting. So you need a certain level of professionalism and knowledge and experience, right? Some people may end up having some type of medical experience that the shaman need to come and actually address, right? So do these people, random people, offering plant medicine experiences, do they have that knowledge? Do they have that experience? Do they have that understanding? And they likely don't. And so that's why I chose to go down there and do this medicine with people who've been doing it for decades, who have a lineage of centuries of doing this, because I wanted to go with some people who were authentic and knew what the hell they were doing, right? So first day I take my shot, and this woman next to me from England is just vomiting like there's nobody's business, right? So I'm holding her bucket, helping her. And that day I never had any real personal experience. Some people were quiet, laid out. Some people had experiences that we talked about the next day. But I was like helping her, helping people around me. And I never felt anything physically sort of with the ayahuasca, right? Fire engine going by, so I'm gonna hold off for a second because it's a little loud. So we don't do ayahuasca or anything back to back. Generally you do a plant medicine and you have a day off where you go do something in town, or you take an excursion or something, and then down the road you may do, another one. But I think there might have been 4 days or so between the ayahuasca experience, maybe even 5. So the second time we do the ayahuasca experience, I'm sitting next to somebody different. Same thing, shaman are there, they're taking care of business, they're setting the tone. We go and take the shots, and immediately I feel sick. Now, I didn't feel anything the first time I took ayahuasca, right? This time I feel sick. Now, let me pause, because I had set my intentions before coming. So before couple months before I came, I'd been having stomach problems for a while. So I'd been taking Protonix, which is an acid inhibitor, for years, right? Ever since I basically became a lawyer, I started having problems with my stomach. So I'm taking this acid inhibitor for years, Protonix. And I had gone to get scoped at a gastroenterologist a couple months before going to Peru, that summer sometime. So this trip was in September, I think. And while I'm under anesthesia, they scope you, right? They put you under. And when I came out, the gastroenterologist and the anesthesiologist were freaking out. They were like, your heart stopped. You have to go to a cardiologist like yesterday. Like, they wouldn't let me leave the office until I booked an appointment with a cardiologist, and it had to be within the next 48 hours. So I go see this cardiologist. He does all these tests. He sets me up with this monitor I have to go sleep with and everything. And I'm like, I ain't got no heart problem. I'm not claiming this heart thing they're talking about, right? My stomach is giving me problems. So I set my intention for 3 things. And I started a week or 2 before I went down to Peru. 1 was that I'm going to heal my stomach and I'm going to heal my heart of anything that's problematic. 2 is I want clarity on what my purpose is and like what my journey is going to be. And 3, I want to release anything that's sort of holding me back, right? So I had been, and this is something that's very important with plant medicine, is setting intentions. Like, really, what are you doing it for, right? Because there's a lot of people who go and they do plant medicine and they're just doing it for the experience. They're looking for a high, and that's absolutely the wrong thing to do. And some people are doing plant medicine over and over and over and over and over again, feeling like the action of taking plant medicine is productive in terms of them getting to their healing, but they're not actually taking the guidance and the information they get from the experience and going back and doing the work that it takes to actually process things out of your system and out of your body and out of your mind and out of your beliefs, right? So they're using it as a crutch for awareness and insight, but they're not actually doing the work it takes to not need the medicine anymore, right? Because that's what plant medicine is supposed to alter your state of consciousness, to show you things, to show you behind the veil, show you what you're capable of actually. And then from there, you're supposed to take that opportunity, take that experience, take that understanding, and then go do what you need to do, right? Not come and take it over and over and over, unless you're someone who's going to be a practitioner, right? So people who are going to lead other people in taking this medicine, they need to take it over and over, because they have to understand every aspect of it and every experience of it, so they can counsel people and talk to people about it, etc. But most people aren't going to do that, right? So back to ayahuasca number 2. So I'm in the Maloka, I'm feeling ill, and I'm like, no, hell no, I ain't throwing up, right? I ain't purging. Like, I'm Andre, I'm definitely not gonna be the first person to purge up in here. I didn't purge it all the first time, I'm not purging. And I'm fighting it back, I'm holding it back, and it's like 10 minutes. It's like 15 minutes, and I'm burping and stuff, trying to hold this damn fucking ayahuasca down, right? Because it's the medicine too. I'm like, it's not gotten into my system yet. It's only been in my stomach for a few minutes. So I know I haven't digested it yet. I don't want to ruin the whole damn experience, right? Because I didn't have one the first time. I want my ayahuasca experience, right? So I'm sitting there, sitting up, I'm squirming and stuff, trying to slow down my heart rate and breathe and shit, man. I had to grab that bucket. I'm throwing up, right? I'm purging. And I'm kind of pissed. But I just felt like after I purged, I had to lay down. So I laid down, and immediately it felt like hundreds of tiny fingers were working on my heart and on my stomach, right? Tied in with my intentions, right? And it feels like, I mean, for about 10 minutes, it just felt like surgery. It felt like something was inside my body doing surgery. Take it for what you will, right? So after about an hour, I'm laying there, the sensation had gone away, and I was like, that's not it. Like, I don't feel like I had the full experience yet. So most people don't do this, but I went back for a second dose. So I went up to the shaman, I spoke to him in Spanish, I told him that I want another dose, and they looked at each other and they started whispering, and then they poured me another shot, gave it to me, I took it, and I went and sat down. Now, incidentally, after I took this second shot, I'm sitting there, and this woman, Karen, again from Sweden, came over to me, and she gave me 2 hand-rolled cigarettes of tobacco and a lighter. And she said, you'll know what to do with it when you need it. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? First of all, I don't smoke tobacco. And they have that's like the pure tobacco down there, and they use it for ceremony. Some people smoke it, but they use it for ceremony. I was like, I don't smoke. I just, whatever, I'm just like, whatever. And I put it down next to my mat. So I'm laying there, and this guy next to me from Sweden, also Ian, he's just having a hard ass time. He's moaning and yelling and groaning. And he's laying on his side and on his back and squirming around. And I'm like, man, would you shut up? Like, I can't focus on my experience with you howling like that, right? So I'm figuring in my mind, I'm not mad at him, but I'm thinking he's either under attack or something on him, or he's having some problems, right? But I'm like, I can't focus. Like, I can't concentrate on what I'm trying to feel or see or get into like a meditative state, because he is going crazy next to me, right? And we're only like 12, 18 inches apart, right? Because there's so many of us inside this Maloka laid out. So we're very close, right? So something just said, help him. And I got up and I grabbed the tobacco, I lit it. I just started blowing around him, and it felt like there was something on him that needed to be cleared. And so I started speaking to this thing. In my mind, I was like, this is a good man. And I had talked to Ian before, and I was like, he was a good guy, right? I was like, this is a good man. You have no dominion here. You don't have no control here. Like, I command you to leave. And I'm blowing another thing of smoke. And something just said, put your hand on his neck, because his back was to me at this time. He was kind of on his side, facing the other way. And I put my hand on his neck, and he jumped like that. And I kept my hand there, and I blew some more smoke, and I told whatever it was that was on him to leave. And he calmed down, and he never howled or said anything else after that. And I was going to do my final clearing, and I took a pull, and I looked to my right, and Ross had crawled over from over by the shaman, and he was coming over to me, and he was at Ian's feet. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and it was almost like I didn't say a word, but I guess my eyes were like, I got this. Like, I got this, don't worry about it. And I just like, I looked at him, and I didn't even give him a second thought. I just turned back, blew, and I kept finishing what I was doing. He backed off and went back and sat down. And I put the rest of the cigarette out. I laid down, and Ian never said a word. And then I laid down and was going back to try and have this experience, right? So 20 minutes, half hour later, nothing yet. And Karen comes back over to me, and she's like, guy on your right is having a problem. We need to help him. So I'm like, she's like, I need you to hold space while I do this work, and you're going to help too. I'm like, okay. So she grabs the other cigarette, lights it, she starts blowing, clearing the space, and then she's like, it's his stomach. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of feel his stomach too. So we're working on him, and her friend Pia came over, who's also from Sweden, and she's kind of supporting. I don't know what exactly she was doing, but it felt like she was holding space and supporting as well. And we worked on him for like half hour, 45 minutes, and then it was done, and they go back to their area, and I lay down again. Hours have gone by, right? So it's and it starts at like 8, 9 o'clock at night. So it's like 2 in the morning at this point. And I still haven't had any vision. I haven't had any out-of-body experience. All I had was the surgery, and that was like in the first 20 minutes, right? So I'm like, damn, I've helped all these people. I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm like, I want my experience, right? I still feel like there's something for me. And I'm laying down on the floor, and some people had come over, and we all kind of like laying down in a little area together. And it's like 3 in the morning, and my back's starting to hurt from laying on this floor, right? So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go up to the bed and get into bed. Like, I guess I'm tapping out, right? I haven't had this vision. I haven't had any out-of-body experience. I haven't talked to any beings like some of these other people talked about their experiences. And I'm like, I'm calling it, man. So I go up to the room, and I lay down, and it was almost instant. Like, I just started having this vision, and it was a vision of this ladder, but it wasn't like a normal step ladder with like the rungs. It was like a lattice ladder, like kind of one like you see on the side of a house that has vines growing into it, where it's got like all the little boxes, but it's wide. It's like 10, 15 feet wide, and it goes all the way up to the sky, and it's dark. I'm not in a room, but I'm like, it's just, everything's dark. There's no trees, walls, anything. It's just this ladder, and it's one speck of light way up in the sky. And this ladder goes all the way up to this dot of light in the sky. But what's interesting about this ladder is that it's full of snakes. It's full of all types of snakes, you name it, like anacondas and pythons and cobras and coral snakes, and they're all just slithering in and out of all these holes. And what it felt like was, I have to get to that light. I can't stay in this darkness. I have to get to that light. But to do so, I have to climb up this ladder full of snakes. So this is the vision I'm having. And I'm like, all right, well, I got to do what I got to do. So I started climbing up the ladder. Snakes are, I just start ignoring them. And I just keep climbing. And as I'm climbing, this speck of light that was so far, it just starts growing and getting a little bigger, a little bigger, a little bigger, a little bigger, until I finally get up to the light, and it's like a circle. And I climb up into it, and it's a room. It's a white room that's round. And the only thing in the room is this ball of light, and it's about 3 or 4 feet in diameter, and it's sitting in the middle of the room, and it's levitating, and it's just me and this ball of light, and I'm staring at it, and it's just sitting there. And as I'm staring there, it feels like it's communicating with me, but I don't hear any words. I'm not listening. I don't feel anything. But all of a sudden, I'm looking at this almost like a movie. I'm watching it like a movie. I start turning into light. Like, my physical outline is still there of a body, but my features, everything goes away. It's just pure light inside my body. And I'm standing there, and then I fall asleep. And the next day, we come back into the Maloka with the shaman, and we all sort of share our experiences, and they give us feedback on what we experienced. Because certain things mean certain things. It's almost like dream interpretation or like psychic reading kind of thing. And so I shared my story, and they were like, wow, this is amazing. Like, you have to help people. This means you're going to, sort of reach this enlightenment after, you're going to have to go through all these things, but you're going to reach this, but your job is to help people. So I just took that away, and it felt like that other aspect of the ayahuasca experience I was looking for, right? I didn't have this out-of-body experience. I didn't talk to any beings, but it felt like what I needed, right? I got the surgery. I got the emotional clearing and the mental clearing from the San Pedro experience, and then I got the vision of what was sort of for my life, what all this stuff kind of means, what I'm heading towards. And it was really an amazing experience. It really was. It was what I needed at the time, and it definitely felt like what I was being called to. And that's sort of been a theme in my life over the last decade, and even before that, but more so now as I'm paying more attention to it, is what am I being called to? Like, what is speaking to me so loudly that I can't deny it? I need to go do it. And you don't always know why you're doing it, or what's there, or even appreciate the depth of what you will experience, but just answering the call and saying, okay, I'm feeling this, it's constant, it's coming to me, I'm going to go ahead and go. And I'm very grateful that I did, because hooking up with the Myburghs was critical. Lesley, Simon, and Mark, and I eventually met many more people in their family, was critical, because I ended up meeting in 2018. I went back down there because they were doing an African Andean fusion where a Sangoma from South Africa, a South African shaman, was coming over, and as soon as I saw her face, I knew I had to go. I had no plans of going back to Peru to do any more plant medicine or anything else, but when I saw her face, I just knew I had to go. And then I ended up going to South Africa, living with her for 2 months, studying with her, and doing another 2-week retreat with the Myburghs, touring around South Africa in 2019. And so I wasn't meant to do the ayahuasca experience with that first place. That's why it didn't work. That's why I got rejected. I was meant to hook up with the Myburghs. I was meant to be introduced to the people I was introduced to, and to have the experience I did. And you know, things don't always work out the way you think they should, but they generally tend to work out the way they ought to, if you are willing to look at it from that perspective, and to take away from things what they're offering and not necessarily what you want. So yeah, Cusco is a magical place. Peru is a magical place. Like, I ended up renting a motorcycle one of the days and like touring around, going to Pisac, riding through the mountains, which was dope. I ended up, you know, seeing all types of parades and going to eat all kind of incredible food there. Some really amazing food, the ingredients, right? You see the different types of corn and how the corn looks completely different than the corn we eat, right? Because it's natural. These are like corn seeds that are, you know, thousands of years old, not modified genetically, not, you know, treated in some way with all types of pesticides, and the food just had an organic taste to it, and the people were so genuine. It was just a really great experience. And yeah, Cusco felt like home in a lot of ways, and I had a really good time. So that's my 2016 Peru story. I will be following up with a 2018 Peru story, and then that 2019 South Africa journey, as well as a couple of more. So hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you again soon.